Hey YouTube, James Donaldson here, and I'm bringing you a video on being what I call a discreet tactician. James, what the hell does that mean? I'll explain it. First of all, I'm not going to do this every video, don't worry, but I like to break things down using a dictionary where it can cut it down to a level where both of us could be on the same plane. Sometimes, I'll be honest, I don't even know what the hell these words mean. Discreet. Having or showing discernment or good judgment in conduct and especially in speech. Think about that. Some synonyms: unpretentious, unmodest, unobtrusive, unnoticeable. These are some words that we definitely want to apply to our newfound contemporary gentleman concept. Tactician. One versed in tactics. What the hell are tactics? Well, they're the art or skill of employing available means to accomplish an end. So, doesn't necessarily have to do with guns. Doesn't necessarily have to do with hand-to-hand combat. It's simply employing available means to accomplish an end. So that could be speech, that could be appearance, saying something without saying it, body language. These are some things we're going to talk about in this video. So many videos, and of course I haven't seen all the YouTube videos or all the channels, but they cover a lot of stuff that I don't see applying to how I conceal carry or how I carry myself in the normal world. For instance, you can tell by my videos and how I dress up. Not all the time. To me, appearance is one of the tools in the list I'm going to talk about today. They have to do with me wanting to be underestimated and also wanting more out of people. Again, we're going to get to these things. But for instance, getting someone's assumption about you where you want it to be. If you go back and watch the last video on being a contemporary gentleman, you may or may not notice that I'm carrying a gun. It is concealed, as it is in this video. So, carrying a Glock 26XL, as I call it. I will do a video on this gun. It's a very aggressive gun. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. But anyway, the purpose of being a discreet tactician. By the way, I've written an article that will eventually go on the website, so excuse me for looking down at my notes. But being a discreet tactician is to be prepared for any situation. One of the best ways to accomplish this is to be an individual who can interact with anyone and be capable of achieving any desired outcome. So, if there's a situation going on and someone's upset and you can see it escalating and escalating, and you finally get to the point where you decide your involvement will not make things worse, it'll more than likely make things better, then you get involved. And whether it's standing up and someone realizes that they've attracted too much attention, they may leave. If you say, "Excuse me, I can't help but get involved. What is going on here? Maybe I can help." Or maybe they have a gun in a public place and you need to shoot them. It's kind of the most extreme, but nonetheless, it's in the line of different ways of handling a situation as it unfolds. Now, as this applies, a discreet tactician is capable of feats well outside their appearance, and we're going to hit hard on that here in a minute. But this requires an individual to be well educated in the what-if game to a point where they can overcome most challenges, however unusual they might be. So when you're driving your car, when you're doing something, just playing the what-if game of, or even with your family, hey, what if someone came into this house with a gun? What would our reaction be? It makes you prepared for those things. It's something we do in the Army a lot, is the what-if game. Okay, for instance, my job, what if there's an IED here? Well, how are we going to do that? What if it's in a choke point? What if it's on the side of a mountain where you have a cliff face here and a cliff face going down on that side? How are we going to handle that? The what-if game can help prepare you in your mind for handling various situations. Now, to be a discreet tactician, you want your environment placid and calm. So some of the tools we're going to talk about, or the principles rather, of a discreet tactician: poise, control, proficiency, and probably most importantly, tact. Now, poise, you're being calm and capable when in the face of adversity, is what we're saying here. And so if you're in a a calm and conducive for everyday lifestyle type of environment, and it's stirred up by, say, a mass shooter or just a rude individual, then you have to act accordingly to whatever they're doing. So you're in a restaurant, someone comes in, they're arguing with the wait staff. Maybe they're going to leave on their own after they yell. Maybe sometimes people just need to yell. They need to feel better about themselves. Everyone's guilty of it, including myself. Sometimes I've just had to lose my temper. Blow off some steam, and then maybe you can come at it at a more agreeable angle. So maybe this person's yelling at the waitstaff and they're going to leave. You don't need to get involved. Certainly don't need to draw a weapon on them. It's a simple altercation. Now, if they come in with a gun out, and especially if they start shooting at random, you should probably draw down on them. Probably. Again, I'm not there. Maybe you drawing is going to attract attention. Most of the time you shouldn't draw on an already drawn weapon. Granted, if their attention's away from you, details, we get into those in other videos. But you really want to be in control of your environment. Now sometimes that means you're not in control per se, but someone you trust or you have an alliance or allegiance with is in control. So, in which case you can kick back and enjoy yourself. Support them. If an issue arises, they can handle it. Maybe they'll need your help. Maybe they'll ask for it. What if game? Handle it at that time. Now, the more knowledge you have of everything, the more you can poise yourself and keep yourself in control. Ideally, knowledge you have will be as relevant as possible. So maybe, if you enjoy gardening, that may not apply to a given scenario as much as knowing about body language and reading body language. But not saying don't study flowers. Who knows, that could come in handy someday. I don't know. I'm sure someone could think of a scenario. I'm just not going to waste your time doing it on my own. Now, being in control, as I said, that's a big part of it, but understanding that sometimes it's okay to relinquish control to someone you trust. Proficiency, being able to respond accordingly to a number of stimuli. So, driving down the road, your kid's screaming, traffic's terrible, your phone's ringing, knowing how to just focus on the road and tune it all out. And at the same time, maybe you need to be taking it all in. Maybe you're in an environment, you're in that restaurant where that guy's raising his voice, and he's starting to get louder and starting to carry on. And then someone starts yelling back at him. Now this seems to be escalating. You need to continue doing your math, your internal algorithm, if you should get involved or not. Chances are probably not, but again, paying attention to it. But maybe this is a distraction. Someone's going to come in from over here and rob. So keeping your mind going. Keep paying attention to what's going on with your surroundings. Now, proficiency, being able to respond accordingly. I think I've covered that pretty well. Tact, arguably the most important thing. Accomplishing the previous principles without causing more problems. So if I draw on this person that's shooting this place up, what's between me and them? If you shoot innocent people, even though you're trying to kill them, whether you kill them or not, that's a big issue if you shoot people that aren't supposed to be shot. Big thing, checking the backdrop of your target. Active shooter, what's behind them? If you over-penetrate, which however unlikely, then what are you going to hit? If you miss, what are you going to hit? Really big questions you need to ask yourself. Guy robbing a bank. At the point you're already processing it, he has money in hand, he's about to leave. Do whatever he says, or even before. You don't need to escalate and put yourself in jeopardy or another life in jeopardy unless the stakes are being raised for you. If he's clearly going to hurt somebody, or she, women can rob banks too, if he or she is clearly going to hurt someone, that changes the equation a little bit. Maybe you do need to get involved. If you have a gun on you, maybe you should draw. I can't be there with you, so you're going to have to answer those questions for yourself if you run into that. But these are all things that are very important to think about. If people are just arguing, is you getting involved going to escalate it and make it worse? Saying, hey, excuse me, maybe you two can argue outside. That could make someone draw on you. Whereas if you don't get involved, then they have their argument, whatever strain it puts on the room, and then they leave. Again, constantly thinking about these things. Tact. You need to have an effect without causing more problems. Now, some tools. Being underestimated is a good one. For instance, how I dress. A lot of people underestimate who I am as a person based on how I dress. That's part of the reason I dress how I dress in public. And obviously, I don't wear khakis and a polo when I go hunting. I very much am a guy with kind of uniforms. I wear my camo for hunting, I wear this for that, I wear, jeans if I'm going to do this. I have different outfits, but you're going to see me a lot in this type of dress because this is something I'm not seeing on YouTube. And so I want to, again, come at all this from a different angle. So appearance, feeding into that, blending in or standing out at the right time. Maybe you're going somewhere and you want to stand out. Maybe you're up in the club trying to get a honey. I'm sorry, that was super vanilla. Anyway, point being that maybe you're somewhere where you don't want to stand out, you want to blend in. So, where are you going? What are you doing? That should help dictate what you're wearing. Fashion and function hand in hand. Now speech is another one. Speech and appearance are two big things where you can get more things than somebody else can out of an individual based on how your appearance or speech affects them. Maybe you look like a yuppie, you're talking to a yuppie, they're probably more likely to help you than if you look like you live in a trailer. No offense to people who live in trailers, because on the flip side, someone in a trailer that sees a yuppie probably less inclined to help them out with something as they would if they saw somebody else that looked like they live in a trailer. It's just how the world is. I'm not saying it should be that way, but that's how it is. So, preparing yourself. So then, body language feeds right into that. Looking like you're trying to intimidate can have different effects on people's mindsets. Looking confident when you're trying to speak to someone you're attracted to. Things like that. Body language is very important. Sometimes, if you're aware of your body language, you can send signals that are false if you want someone to think a certain thing about you. For instance, maybe you're not confident, but you want to look confident. There you go. Maybe you are confident, but you want to look like you're not confident. Maybe you're undercover. Maybe you're playing a prank. Who knows? Movement is obviously a huge thing. Looking like you know what you're doing. There was once I was sitting at a bar, and the bar I didn't like the setup because everybody walked behind you either to leave or to enter or to go to the bathroom. So I actually would turn my head a lot because I like to be aware of my surroundings. And a guy saw me turn my head, and he was like, "Hey man, just go in the bathroom." And I didn't said or done anything, but he saw that I was very aware of him walking by, and he just wanted me to know he wasn't up to anything. I wasn't worried, but I like to be aware of my surroundings. Not paranoid, but aware. Finally, strive to operate beyond your capacity. I got news for you. Life doesn't do things the way you think they will a fair amount of the time. So when you think, oh, I just need to hit this number or do this to achieve this, you might be right most of the time. But there are times, and oftentimes it's the wrong time, that you're wrong. And you needed to run faster, or you need to jump higher, or you needed to think harder, or you needed to shoot better. I have way too many people, I've seen too many comments from people that, based on the criteria they felt they needed to give me, that they should have known better. To say things like, well, most self-defense scenarios with a gun happen within 7 yards. So, that's really what you need to be prepared for. Yeah, so you're saying if I'm prepared for 7 yards, and of course the one time I have an interaction with somebody where I have to draw a weapon, and they're at 25 yards, I shouldn't bother being prepared for that because the odds are too small. Well, if they want to live their life that way, that's fine. But me, I'd rather set myself up, push myself as much as I can. For instance, this weapon, some of my goals were to maximize velocity, as well as some other things, help out with recoil and the grip. Glock hump is a little high on the 26. Plus the Surefire X300 compared to a Glock 19 is so long anyway, may as well. But yeah, they like to talk about velocity and distance and everything, and I'm saying, well, this works for me. And this is me pushing myself. I'm able to carry this, so I carry it. If I couldn't carry a gun this big, I'd carry something smaller. I will add in, life is about balance. So when you are pushing yourself, be aware that sometimes you got to find a happy medium. Anyway, this is kind of my overall brain download on, or brain dump on being a discreet tactician and what some other things you need to consider are when you're looking into concealed carry or just conducting yourself in everyday life. Being aware of how to handle people. I'm very fortunate that I have diversified my skill set. Being in the Army, I have a job where I definitely operate involved with other parties, if you will. So I'm not actually just in the Army behind a desk. I'm actually out doing things. So that gives me some tactical awareness. But then on the other side, by trade in the civilian world, I'm a salesman. So I deal with people on a constant basis. And it actually, people at work give me insight into people out of work, and those lifestyles really blend together. It's amazing, my management and people dealing skills, how they interact and affect and are affected by my experience with people in the Army. Very interesting stuff, but I'm sure you're halfway asleep right now. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video, but I appreciate you tuning in, and the videos will definitely get more exciting, but some of these kind of ground concepts I wanted to get across. Thank you for your time.